Schach, so I must still be good. If he's still playing, I must still be able to play, and in fact, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, lulled himself to sleep, but shocking because our whole careers, Maurice, we've been playing blitz chess our whole lives. It's a part of our understanding of chess. The clock is the equipment of the board.
It's part of chess.
It's a part of it. You always check your clock. And especially Vishy, that was a stunning, stunning moment. And now they flip sides. It's Vishy with the white pieces.
And he will go a different way. And then we saw Garry go in game number 1.
And much more classical, I was going to say, play by Vishy, knight f3. Okay, I can see this from a mile away. You want to go knight g3. You want to play maybe the bishop out to b4, letting the queen come over to e1, putting the queen on d2 so that we can castle short. More sedate, easier play. And I think we're going to see a game with all of the pieces on the board. Much more interesting game than the first.
You talked about sedate play. That's what we had in the last.
Oh, that was terrible.
I mean, that was sedate. That was
to the point of, like.
We just thought it was going to be an easy draw, whatever. You mentioned that as well. He would get that draw if he had just gone for it directly. He decided not to. Garry imploded, right?
Right? Yeah, that was self-inflicted.
What Garry did was just not necessary.
At all. Yeah.
And caused himself with f4 and f5 to potentially have a disaster happen to him. And that's what we were all expecting until Vishy didn't move. So we'll see just how he treats the clock this game. But I have to tell you guys, I am still feeling the effect of the last game. It's such
really stunning.
A stunning thing, a shocking thing, a real downer when you see a professional of this class, this level, allow that to happen. Thankfully, he's got lots of points he could come back. He's going to have to show that championship medal as he plays these games.
Yeah. And shake off what was for us a shock. I've been calling Grand Chess Tours for years. And the players on the Grand Chess Tour often get down to a few seconds, like literally even 1 second. And they never lose on time. They're remarkable in getting in those moves. So sitting there watching Vishy burn a whole minute, just the whole minute passed, he didn't move, he lost on time, he seemed completely oblivious to his clock. No, I haven't been calling that. C7, C6. Again, we've seen this from the first game, opening up the bishop, prepping bishop C7. Not a big fan because I don't see that bishop as being the problem child. I see this one as being the problem child. If I'm in Vishy's shoes, I'm shooting my bishop out to the b4 square. I'm welcoming a trade, and I'm sitting there going, ha, 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 ha. I got rid of my bishop. What are you going to do? You're going to recapture with your rook, or you're going to double up your pawns. That's advantage white. So for me, the move c7, c6, I'm not a big fan.
He's being very careful, is Vishy, right now, as he stops to think. And Garry must have realized from the last game, I just skirted the edge a little bit too much. Let me also pick up the pace. We'll see if they can continue that. We are only on move 3, and Vishy is deep in thought about what to do next. I think about time these guys should realize they're playing rapid blitz.
Yeah, and it's rapid for a reason. They call it rapidly.
Make some moves.
Yeah, it was aptly named.
Rapid, please. By the way, I forgot about my checkmating idea of queen f1, queen a6 mate. Bishop a5, just to try to provoke that pawn to b6 before dropping the bishop back to b4. I like bishop a5. Slow play. e2, e3, slow play.
Yeah.
Knight g3, queen f1, queen e2 on Vishy's agenda.
Well,
not much there. The engine actually is showing it doesn't like that move.
I didn't either.
It's just not a super incisive move. As the board gets refreshed there, and we say, what is Vishy after? I'm concerned. I'm concerned. This format, it definitely promotes comebacks.
Yes, that's the concept of the coach chess, as you
But if you start losing all your games,
Right, there is an insurmountable point.
At some point where it's like you lost a lot of games, dude. Like this is not what you want for yourself. So Vishy has to right the ship. That's the theme right now.
Right.
And at the moment, we just saw 3 moves in, and already we're concerned that he's not playing hyper aggressively, or maybe he just feels like no need to panic. Don't worry, guys. I'm cool. I'm calm. I'm collected. I'll make it happen.
Sometimes you can be a little too chill. I mean, again, for me, the move e2, e3, it doesn't address the main issue. And give it a second thought, Maurice. Bishop a5. Had he played this move, you don't want to move the rook. You don't want to play bishop c7. I mean, it's not terrible if you play bishop c7. We're just going to trade, and you're not castling. You're committed to keeping your king on the queen side. But if you do play the move b7, b6, it does raise the question just a little bit. Like, are you satisfied weakening the queen side?
Your potential pawn shield.
Yeah.
On that side.
Exactly. I agree with you. And the lack of ambition that the move e2, e3 shows, it rankles. I am not a big fan.
Much akin to game number 1, while we aren't necessarily finding our way into direct symmetry, we are finding ourselves to somewhat mirror the clock situation from the first go-around. Once again, Garry spending much more time out the gate than Vishy, but we'll see if that holds true.
Since he wasn't punished in game 1, maybe he's figuring, don't worry, guys. You know, you guys are making big points. You saw what happened in the last game. You saw what happened in other games. I'm okay. I'm going to handle my business. But at the moment now, shaking his head there, and again shaking his head is.
I think Gary's realizing the move c7, c6 did not address the issues. By the way, we like talking about the breaks in the opening. To my eyes, I'm white. I love the move c2, c4. I'm eyeballing that as the potential. I'm also eyeballing the move e3, e4. So let's just put a move on the board, if you don't mind. I'm just going to play knight f6, knight g3, knight g6, queen to f1, and I'm going to repeat e7, e6. So now with the move c2, c4, and bishop d7, just getting ready to castle short. Nope, I'm going to cut you off at the pass. You're not castling. So this is how black can get into a little trouble. You're about to say,
well,
James.
but none of this deals with your original idea, which is what if the bishop comes all the way over to a5?
a5, yep.
So how do we stop that?
You can't. You're going to have to play b6, or you're going to use a tempo to play the move bishop c7.
A5 myself. Pawn to a5. Then I recapture with my rook.
That's true. But what you've done is you've stopped me from playing the move bishop a5, but okay, we're just going to take this move back so the audience can follow our analysis. The move a5 sure does put the kibosh on my bishop coming out to b4 as well as a5. But now you've limited yourself. You say, I'm not castling queenside.
Yeah.
You're going to castle kingside. Now I know where you're going. I'll adjust accordingly. By the way, I think we saw knight d7.
Knight d7 and a4, on the board, remembering that a5 idea. And you've got white thinking that I could play a5 and a6. And this is, again, Alpha Zero style. In
dropping the pawn on
the H-pawn is usually the pawn we see when black castles, or either side castles, kingside. But here with the pawn going down there, that pawn could be a bone in the throat. A lot of times we like to use that pawn in lever fashion, open up the side. But a lot of times, Alpha Zero, the wonderful engine that was created by DeepMind, Google's DeepMind, showed that a pawn sitting, just being a nuisance in enemy territory, can be quite the problem. So a4 is definitely one of those, I'm going to put a little finger type move and moves. And then now a5 is a natural reaction just to make sure this pawn doesn't continue to expand.
I liked how Grandmaster Edward Gufeld described that pawn on a6 or the pawn on h6. It's like a snake at your throat. You know, it's kind of a boa constrictor. You don't like it there. You just don't like it.
I don't want a snake anywhere near me as far as I'm concerned,
in a
but
response.
Whoa. Okay. This is the scorpion, right? Gary's true to his nature. His nature is he likes to play dynamic and enterprising chess. Is he doing it again to himself? Is he making his own life difficult? This is not a move I would have aspired to myself, but okay, e7, e5. Throws a gauntlet on the board. What are you going to do?
So I'll tell you this, we wanted a little bit more action
well, we're
from
getting
game
it.
1 to game 2. We're definitely getting it this time around.
Yeah, exactly. We sure are.
That is for darn sure. And by the way, this move is not a real threat. If you push, you have actually given white this French structure.
Again.
All right?
Yeah.
This knight could easily just drop back and then play for all the breaks, the f3 break being a very important one, and also the c4 break being an important one as well.
Exactly.
The possibility here of the move c4,
also very nice,
is also interesting because this bishop, you know, it can always get in the game, but it's also pressuring this pawn. Boy, I would love to see c4 land on the board just because it's so wild and woolly.
It's a visual move.
Very visual.
And this bishop on b1, once you do play the move c4, it's got a natural pathway to f5 and pinning the knight to the king. Another move that just, again, I find myself very attractive is Munch Munch. I would like to encourage black to capture that kind of freeze my queen just that ever little bit, loosen black up on the queen side, and if we were going to get a position like this, well, you can see the queen ready to rumble. You're right, though. I would have preferred the pawn on
c4. What's your bishop doing on b1?
Okay.
Please get it in the game.
It's an ugly...
You know, wanted to do it one step at a time. By the way, did we play a4 with the idea of playing a5 in the near future?
Yes,
we did.
Absolutely. This is some good stuff. e5, Garry playing with fire after these moves.
It's hilarious. Sorry to interrupt you there, Maurice. It's hilarious. I had criticized Vichy. E2, E3. That move lacks ambition. A4? Well, that's as ambitious as you can get. Wait a minute. And E5? That's as ambitious as you can get. Go ahead, Vichy.
It's on the board. This fire and brimstone again. This is the kind of chess we want to see. This is sharp. I don't know what the result's going to be because we're being shocked by results. The last 3 results, we've been stunned.
Yes,
right?
clear.
That's for sure. In the last 3 games, this match is completely unpredictable. But with a move like this, I would say, yeah, you can't tell the storyline the way it's going to develop. And this last move, e5, I'm not sure this is something black should have done, but we'll see.
Right, nothing's gone the way we've expected, and I'd venture a guess that Viswanathan did not expect this e5 move because now he has spent quite a bit of time. We're about to see clocks nearly equalized here, so a bit of a different picture from the first go-around between these two.
I remember having dinner with Bent Larson where we were discussing a game that was going on in the tournament, and White had played h4. And Bent looked at me and he said, Yasser, can you believe that the player never played h5? You played h4. You said A. What does a2, a4 say to you? I'm going to grab some space. Vichy's thinking about it, but the natural move here is a5. And you said it yourself, Maurice, we're not even worried about the move e4. We got a French, and we're ready to play c4 and talk about that snake at your throat. a5, a6 lurking, f2, f3, bishop g3. So Vichy's played a4. Well, come on, man. You know, you said A. Let's go with B. Let's play a5. Let's go.
He had that edge on the clock. Here he is once more thinking, I hate to, again, clock unaware at the moment, but come on, Vichy. Any move. At some point, though, I feel like it's just going to click in.
Yeah.
That, you know, he was one of the fastest players in history when he was a young man. Back in the early 90s, he was one of the fastest players you've ever seen. And he was thinking for some time, and look at this.
We got it done, bro.
C4 is on the board. Hello. He is just risen the temperature on the chessboard with that last move.
Turned it up. Yeah, I like it. I like it. C4.
We can get behind this move. That's
you
what
said
he
you
was
wanted
thinking
to
about.
see it. Your wish has been granted.
Exactly.
C4 is on the board. It's a lot of tension now on those central squares.
Now, I don't like capturing because just jumping ahead. If I get to recapture, it's sort of like my piece is going to be sitting pretty on the C4 square. And why is A4 useful? Well, you don't want to defend the pawn. I'm just going to force your knight away. And if you play B5, why did I play A4? Well, just so I could rip open the position. And that bishop on B1, why did we play C4? Oof. Hello. That's a rook.
A nice line indeed, but also, yes, you do have another problem in this position. Takes. There's also just takes, isn't there? Not sure how.
Can we take a recapture? Knight takes C5.
Knight takes. You don't mind this position, I guess.
I'm losing my castling privileges.
Castling rights?
Yeah, for a whole pawn though.
You know we're going to try to win that pawn back.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You never get it.
Never going to give it back to me. I got a feeling that I will be able.
I'm not giving you nothing. I'll take it
Bishop
back.
takes.
I'll recapture.
Actually, I have another idea. It's not just.
No, you don't.
Now
your
bishop
pawn.
to A2?
What if, bishop A2. I want it to be more aggressive, James.
Okay.
And play maybe a move like this one and prepare to castle.
You're cruising for a bruising now. The one thing that you didn't want to allow is a queen on H8
this move like this
to get
one,
into
right?
the game,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I got a battery suddenly that I'd like to share.
Suddenly you do have a battery.
Yeah, to share.
And I don't have a chance because your king is going to hide on this square. So
I'm
that
so
is,
lucky.
Yeah. For now, trust me. After this position here, I find it very hard to believe.
Here's what I'm learning.
Now that you've said it, let's play bishop C3 first.
A move that we wanted before.
Yes. And now if you say, I want to keep my pawn, I'll take that.
And
now
castle.
I'll castle. My rook,
No, bring your king to the rook.
King to the rook.
Yeah.
And now, give me the pawn back. Give me the beautiful diagonal here.
Now you're
your
cruising.
king is stuck in the middle.
I hate where my king is now as black.
No, white's all day.
White all day.
All day.
So C4 on the board.
By the way, Garry responded faster than I expected him to. I thought that move was going to.
Well, he spent a good 3 minutes on that thing. He just made the move. So you see 15:53 on his clock. Now time ticking away here on Vishy's side. So he opts to not look for the trade. He's going to complete the connect four. David Howe is very happy somewhere in Norway right now to see that the connect four completed.
And we have what Lawrence Day might call the big clamp. He's got the center has Garry, but I'm not unhappy in Vishy's shoes here. I'm thinking, bring my bishop out, play the move F3, bring my bishop out, please trade, open up my queen. And by the way, with the move F3, I got another one. I'm going to play a very bad move. Please forgive me, Garry Kasparov fans. But, ooh, that move could suddenly... no. I mean, White's got the initiative here.
There goes pawn power in Hans Camacho again with those levers. Sorry, Yasser. I'm going to keep referencing the book that you so dearly love.
Mass suicide. Seppuku.
Listen,
Yes.
this is the kind of position that Vishy in his prime plays just with exact style. He plays it with incisiveness. He starts hitting you. What I've seen so far, he has not played aggressively. He just hasn't. He has not played aggressively. Remember that game, was it game one or was it game two? The game he had the white pieces where he played the rapid game where he played King B1.
Yes.
And we were waiting for some
advantage.
Come on, go get him, hit him hard. We were waiting for H5. He played G5 and slowed up the game.
Right.
We haven't seen that Vishy yet.
Unleashed. Yep.
When he starts playing like that, he's going to be super dangerous in this match. And it's moves like F3, even Benko style.
By the way, G4.
G4. It reminds me of my suggestion to you when you were playing Dragon Barlov all those years ago.
B4.
You play this kind of move. But this kind of move just pry open the pawn chain, try to start cracking open both sides of the board.
Hilarious, brings back memories. The first time I ever met Vishy across the board was in Dubai, the Olympiad. I was playing board one for the United States. He was playing board one for India. I was on the black side of a French defense, and he was trying to keep the clamp on me and to keep my pieces all backwards, right? Passive. And now he's playing the French defense reversed.
French structure, right?
Reversed. I find that hilarious. I'm looking at F3, Maurice. I'm just saying, just go ahead and make a move. Like you don't want to take. This would be very useful. Thank you for helping me develop my pieces, right? My queen suddenly came out. My bishop suddenly came out. This is not what you want to do. So you want to play the move knight F6, right? Just develop. And now I love your G4 idea. Like, give me that. Like,
that wasn't my idea. You actually suggested it first.
Like, wow.
But here,
he took
what just happened?
He took on D5, I believe.
I can't.
Well, he's got a very crystal clear idea. If he can bring a rook to the C file first, something like bishop A2. No, I'm not sure I like it either. But I'm trying to justify his play.
How do you even do it?
I like the tension. I like
the tension was wonderful.
Tension.
Why break the tension? And how do you, as you mentioned,
exploit the C file?
Give me the solution to this math problem. Get your rook on C1 somehow.
Right. Okay. I'm anticipating him playing the move bishop A2. If you didn't want to play F3, I'm anticipating bishop A2. Let's say you got to defend the pawn.
No, he's played G4.
Ooh.
Not sure why he needed to play.
Sacrificing for B7. Oh, Vishy.
Oh, are you serious? It's funny.
Remember the battery?
Very interesting idea indeed.
Remember the battery. Oh, my goodness. Could he have been...
Wow.
That was why he didn't want to see the pawn on C6. So he took on D5 to prep a piece sacrifice. And he's saying, let's see you defend the pawn on B7.
Not in this position, you don't.
Let's see you defend the pawn on
C7. You're trying to figure out how to get this B1 bishop into the game in a useful manner. And that's such a creative way to do so.
That could be sweet. That could be sweet. Knight takes E4. I don't think you can take the knight.
No, I don't think you can.
And Vishy is saying, please take my knight.
Okay. Well, how is this? Is this our first look at the kind of issue you're talking about?
Look, Garry just looked up because he sensed the sacrifice is coming. He knows Vishy's got something up his sleeve.
It's a dynamic move, but if you wanted to play G4 and trick your guy, why don't you just play it? Instead of playing
C takes D5. I preferred F3 and G4, but
I'm just saying if you are going to play, like if we go back a couple of moves, to right here.
Yep.
If you really want to be sneaky about it, and you play this
with
move,
G4,
and you take me here,
now take
and now you take, you go, why is he doing this? But this pawn is straight up hanging,
now
and this pawn, your structure is crashing.
You got no.
And now you could do it the exact same thing.
No options.
But no options.
Right. It took away your ability to play something else.
So it seemed to me G4, if we give it the same plan, would have just been just as fast. And it works. It actually does work, if that was your intention.
Exactly.
You were saying he wanted to clear the diagonal, but that would have cleared it just the same.
So instead of CD5, G4 from the initial position was much more incisive. Yes. I agree.
And also much more cunning, like sneaky. Because you might think, because look, when I first saw G4, I didn't see this idea at all.
Right.
This move, you know, you're thinking maybe I'm going to play for H3 and play Benko style, kind of opening up these lines. That's what my brain was, not realizing that this possibility existed.
And bishop takes
with the sacrifice. Yeah. So it would have been sneaky to play this way. Truly. This one is more transparent, and it's on the board. And now Garry,
look at that
look of disgust on his face.
Well, he's suddenly sensing that his plan of E5 and E4 was very ambitious, and maybe unjustified. He took strategic risks, losing time on development. You know what might have lured Garry into the whole E5, E4. Was it A4? Gary probably looked at that move and said, you know, you're wasting time. You're giving me a chance to seize the initiative. I'm gonna do that, underestimating what Vishy has just done.
Now, what if, as opposed to taking this G pawn,
yes,
I develop like my light squared bishop to defend
exactly
the F pawn?
Okay, so a very good move, for example, would be bishop G6, just as you suggested. In this particular case, what you might not like is that the bishop is actually in a bit of a pin. In the move F2, F3, prepares to, you know, my favorite living condition, winning a pawn.
Going for the pawns.
Going for the pawn. And by the way, also, knight to G3 is also another tempo. The bishop is actually vulnerable.
Because of problem piece, in a way.
Now, another way was to say, okay, let me just refortify that pawn with the move G6. I'm not a big fan of this move either, pretty much for the same reasons. I can capture and play knight G3, or I still like the entire idea.
The Hans Kamachi move. Pawn powers, pawn levers. Man,
this guy's not going to show up to work tomorrow if you keep throwing that name around.
Human resources.
I mean, we know how much you love. You know, you're coming around to it.
I need a safe zone, everybody. You know, just...
Put him in a bubble.
This man is hurting
Surrounded
me.
by pawns.
Hurting me over here.
Oh, my Lord.
Oh, my gosh.
Levers are good, yeah. Levers are good. Okay.
Yep.
Kamachi.
8:45, by the way, on the clock. Sorry to jump in and take the role that you've been taking in game number 1 of the day. Gary has still been thinking for some time.
Time eval.
And just like that, again, going into this move, he was only down about a minute and a half on the clock. Now he's down over 7 minutes at this point.
Well, his world just got rocked because this is not Garry Kasparov. Garry Kasparov is the man who's making the sacrifices, not receiving them. Knight takes E4. Gary knows that this bishop coming out with the queen backing up the power on the diagonal of bishop takes B7, he would lose. He would just simply lose. So Gary is like, uh-oh.
He looks determined, though. He looks determined. But that said, yes, you're right. G4, one of those moves that became famous at some point, I would say...
Kasparov?
No, when G4 became everybody's move, you know, started with the carries attack.
Oh, I see. Yes.
And then G4 started getting played by
Philidor,
everybody in any position. Shirov was doing it famously so. Slavs, you just named it. G4 was landing on the board. G4 was just boom. Everybody wanted to play the move G4. And here, a dynamic pawn thrust. It's not the alpha 0S type. H4, A4 type moves. G4 in this case, cracking the structure, creating imbalances, saying to Black, I'm not just going to sit here and chill and develop my pieces.
No.
I'm going to create energy immediately, and you have to figure out how to handle it.
Yep.
And so we're seeing it right now, and that's costing a lot of time on the clock to Gary.
Costing him dearly.
James, what did you say the time control was for these guys?
This is 25-10.
No, I don't believe it. It looks like 7 minutes for 8 moves. Seven minutes for 8 moves. Garry Kasparov started with 25.
Starting with 25, now down to 6.5 to his name. I mean, I know he's played pretty brilliantly in those kind of panic times so far in our events, but there's a critical mass that you can't necessarily let yourself. There's a tipping point.
He better not lose on time.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, commentators, defibrillator.
Like, seriously?
Yeah.
Somebody just, Chris Bird, go over there and just, hello, time.
A little shove.
Like, come on, what are you doing? And
So we've explored 3 of the options. Taking and defending in 2 different ways. Are those the 3 that he's also considering? There's nothing else.
There's nothing else. I mean, if you allow White's pretty clear about it. I'm going to take this pawn, and maybe I'll sacrifice anyway. Thank you for asking.
And G6, after much thought,
wow,
he's played a move that we felt was pretty natural. He's come around to it, but it just spent so much time, precious seconds doing it. And now Vishy, I'm going to say I'm a bit surprised.
Okay.
He should have been ready.
G6, you should have had this one plotted out.
Absolutely.
Next move should have been landing. I would have done it, just waited if he plays G6.
Right.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom, boom.
Just
Exactly.
boom. As soon as you play, boom. Vishy here stopping to look at the position is a bit of a shock to me.
Push
as
the
well.
pace.
Exactly.
Push the pace.
Exactly. Show some confidence. Shows, that I'm the one who's gonna start taking over this match.
And to bring an analogy from the sport that I grew up in as a track and field athlete, like you want to control the pace of the race. You want to make people run your race, right? And in this case, great. You've set the tone, you've set the pace, but you have to continue along with it. You have to follow through on the game plan.
Exactly. And quickly, I remember a U.S. championship game I was playing against Dmitry Gurevich. I had a terrible position. I really, really did. But it was complicated. That was the problem for Dmitry. It was complicated, and he was using a lot of time. And I thought to myself, well, the only chance I got is to exploit the time. And it was like the weirdest thing. I was analyzing the position, and I'm saying, Dmitry's going to play this move. And I have to prepare my response. So Dimitri's thinking, he made a move. Instantly came my response. He was shocked. He was like, and he started thinking, and I said, he's going to play this move. I immediately responded. And he just collapsed because the moves just kept coming. See, I would have thought to myself, Gary's going to play G6. I'm going to play knight G3. Give me the pawn.
The most important thing came at the end there, and the moves just kept coming.
Right, bang, bang, bang.
Because you make the move, then you have to keep up the pace. You have to say, stick with me, or I'm going to drop you.
Exactly.
That's right, and I'm super confident at the moment because I'm guessing your moves, and I'm just responding as soon as you do. That's really a psychological whammy.
Precisely.
You don't want to be in that situation, and then your clock starts to tick even more and more. Exactly. So the fact that Vishy is not ready with the move knight G3 you have there on the board, or the move F3, something, whatever it is you're going to play, is a bit of a surprise, as though G6 itself surprised him when it was one of the main candidate moves in the position.
And indeed, maybe even the only move. And yeah, you would say, okay, come on, Vishy, you've got it ready. Let's go. And especially because Garry is down to, what are we looking at?
It's 8:16 on the clock for Garry, now 13:10 to Vishy's name.
Yeah. But again, you said psychologically, you hate it in a complicated position when your opponent comes right back at you with a, you expected the move, but nonetheless, would you please take 5 minutes, let me
Makes you feel like they know something you don't.
Right. And Vishy, look at him. He is so focused. Outside of F3 or knight G3, what are the alternatives here, Maurice?
I don't see it. I don't see it. I think you have to go for the structure. You have to play you said A. In this case, G, you must say F.
Right, let's go.
Just do the move. Go, just go.
Right.
Make a move. Don't, please,
freeze.
Please don't just freeze.
For the sake of discussion, I'll offer a bad idea that goes a different way, but maybe now taking my light-squared bishop over to A2, threatening that backwards pawn.
Fair.
On E5. Of course, it now removes all the opportunities for the sacrifice that we were talking about
on E4.
Before. I feel like, though, now we just invite the defense from our own light-squared bishop or the knight, coming out.
To defend the pawn,
You know what? I'd give your move kudos if you just made it.
If you just made it.
Just play the move.
If it was prepared.
Whoa. He fell in love with your idea.
How do you get a rook to the C file?
But he's just given up, castling permanently on that side. I guess he figures his king can just waltz over there. But you see the move G4 on the right side. You see the move Rook A3 on the left side. And you wonder, how are they connected?
I got a harmonic convergence for you.
Please.
Please. Let's imagine, just for argument's sake, the move knight here. I'm going to give you a Hakasito. You're going to block and cover. Now, remember I told you the problem child? Well, what if that problem child became an all-star? Ooh, maybe he's combining an attack on the king side with a shift, and maybe even an exchange sacrifice on c7, like something like, oh, you can't castle.
Okay, but Garry very quickly
What did Garry do?
played bishop to d6, only move,
Check.
and now just moved his
King
king out of
d8.
danger and
Okay.
said, okay, you played a nice maneuver, but
It
so
ends
what?
there.
So what?
But what do you do? Now, there is the benefit that the rook on a8
It's stuck.
is stuck.
I agree.
So
that is
that is a plus for what has just occurred. But how do you do some kind of
I think it's f3. Let's go.
Right,
F3.
F3.
Break
Break up
pick
the
up a bit,
team.
trying to break up the team?
Bishop g3 on Vishy's agenda. He's got some momentum. And as you said it, you're the rook on a8. That's your problem, child.
Okay, but help me understand the eval bar then in this situation. Because by all accounts, you just told me there's a rook, which is worth 5 points, locked away on the left-hand side of your screen. And
Right.
yet,
And
black,
yet-
by the engine's evaluation, is up a full point.
Well, the problem was when Vishy played g4, he was breaking down the center with the move knight takes e4. If black keeps the big clamp in the center, white's pieces are going to be suffocating a bit. But it does question, I do have the question, why is the eval bar in Garry's favor at the moment? It's not intuitively obvious for me.
Yeah,
Are we playing knight b6, by the way? What are we doing here with the black pieces? I do want to capture. I do want to play knight takes. And I do want to play bishop g3. So I've got a lot of happy moves, easy moves. What exactly should Garry be doing?
It is not self-evident to me either what the plan should be here for black, although that a pawn could potentially be a problem. Okay, your sacks on e4 could happen, right?
Correct.
It's a threat. So let's clear out with a5, make sure that never is an issue. My rook is
okay.
able to move. So you're not sacking on e4, I imagine.
So let's just show the audience why the sacrifice is no longer as powerful. Remember, a moment ago, the king was on c8, the bishop was on b8. In this particular, you've given yourself a defense.
Exactly.
Okay.
On top of which, if we now add something else, when you play a5, the pawn on a4
It's stuck.
is stuck. And so when knight b6, and he has played a5,
Ooh.
and when the knight goes to b6,
I've got to play
you're going to
b3.
have to play b3, weakening those dark squares around your king, waiting for a bishop a3 check.
No, I'm not waiting for that. I'm going to trade off that.
You want to kill this guy.
I'm not waiting for you to land on my doorstep, Maurice. I'm going to play bishop b6. I'm hoping to trade on my terms. Like, if I could play knight takes g3, then...
No. Okay, so now I play queen f6, maybe?
Defending the bishop?
No. I want to replace my bishop with a queen.
Okay, so how are we doing?
If it ever happens.
So you want to take...
No. I will play queen f6. You called it defense. You remember when you were trying to checkmate with your queen maneuvering, my friend, queen d1, queen a4, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing the same thing right now. I'm trying to get my queen to sneak over to that side in one move.
Makes sense.
Although, and there we see bishop g3
Let me refresh
on the
my
board.
And now you're saying the key move is queen f6.
I was just saying I could replace, instead of trying to trade, I play queen f6. If you play something like g5, I'll just drop back to e7.
Whoa. I'm a pawn grabber.
But you're going to grab a pawn.
I'm going to grab a pawn.
You want to sack on e4 with a bishop.
Correct.
I imagine. I see you.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay, so what I'm trying to trick Maurice into doing is capturing my bishop, because then, of course, I've got the fork against the queen and the bishop, and life is good for white.
Right.
Maurice saw that a mile away.
course.
He's not going to go for that.
So, well, no, but if
I'm going to take.
You take, and so now I am going to take with the f pawn.
All right. And
when you sack,
correct.
Now the question becomes, after bishop takes g3.
Correct. Now I pause. Because should I go for this, or do I do this
and then take back and get 3 pawns for the piece?
Yeah, but I don't know. Is it worth it? I mean, I'm thinking black is a piece up. I only got 2 pawns.
Is it only 2? I
that
thought you had clocked 3 of them.
It felt like 2.
It's only 2. Well,
It felt like 2. That was my issue. Bishop G3, a big moment. And by the way, James,
still waiting on that response, and now we're just about to hit that 4-minute mark once again.
By the way, also there is.
Let's
get back to the party move, Knight B6. Let's get back to that move we had talked about.
Knight B6.
A5 was made to also freeze your pawn. So, what are you doing here?
Pausing, thinking. Can I allow knight takes A4?
Whoa.
Bishop C2?
Whoa. Wait a second, guys.
Yes.
We've neglected something.
What did we forget?
Why has Garry only got 346 on his clock?
We didn't neglect anything.
We just said
no.
Did you just say that?
Yeah.
I was oblivious.
Well, you were focused at knight
I was
B6.
so much on the board and the action and the sex appeal of that move. Okay.
And queen F6.
Queen F6.
Okay.
That was your move.
That I made earlier, and Garry is thinking attack also.
Okay.
But still, 1040 for Vishy?
You know the weird part? White can still castle kingside.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the queen on F6.
Yes.
Yeah, just have to get the knight out of the way.
How do we force you to play bishop takes G3, knight takes G3 so I can castle short? That would be groove. That would be nice. How can I do that?
Doesn't seem self-evident.
H3 with the idea of, it doesn't feel forcing. So I'm going to fall back on our previous move. How did you recapture? With the pawn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me see how I can. Okay.
But you had a way to get 3 pawns.
Did I? Tell me.
Because you could take with the bishop. Take. I mean, unless I'm counting wrong.
Okay, that's pawn number 1.
That's pawn number 1.
Okay.
You take my bishop.
Yep. No. I took this bishop.
Correct. And now you wanted to take on D5. That's pawn number 2.
That's pawn number. Oh, by the way, hello.
Oh, and the knight's hanging.
Hello.
So, what was?
Whoa! What are you doing?
Also. Yeah,
What's wrong with? Hold on.
Exactly.
Okay, now that you guided my hand towards the G8 square, gift me the pawn. Gift me the pawn.
Which means I have to take with the D pawn here.
Okay. Gift me the pawn.
And now I have to take your bishop.
On G3.
Correct.
Okay.
But now, what did you get? 1 pawn so far?
1 so far.
But if you take on B7, you're hitting a rook.
That's what I'm saying.
But I have to play rook A7 against that.
No, you do not. Don't you? Oh, you covered me. How did the rook get to D8?
I got you. I got that covered.
That's hilarious.
I got that.
Okay.
You were so excited.
So excited. I mean, I thought I saw mate in 1. I mean, my whole Christmas tree, like, wait a minute. Hey, dude.
But bishop back.
But boom.
We're back again.
I got this. I got you. I got you.
You do have it.
And what has Vishy
on
played?
the board, we've got something entirely different.
What do we have?
Kenny's playing these.
Queen G2.
A move we didn't even consider. That was nowhere on our radars.
No, it was not, because we were looking at the much more forcing play with captures on F5 and E4. Queen G2. Okay, bad move. You are not going to play this move, but in Vishy's favor, bad move. This is what I really wanted to say. It's hilarious. I could castle and set up for, I was trying to exploit the queen on F6. Mm-hmm. That is a funny, you don't see that type of a tactic. So Queen G2, he's trying to say, my threat is to take on D6 and play Queen G3. Trade on my terms. Now, Maurice, you've been anxious to play the move Knight B6 and provoke B3. But what did you accomplish with that provocation?
Well, at the moment, not much. Maybe King A7. King A7, harmonize the pieces further.
And this is what you're aiming for.
This was my fantasy.
Yeah.
To avoid the trade in this position. And boy, you let this happen.
And it's all,
forget it.
And it's
I hate
all
everything about this for White.
Yeah, with good reason. The training is good. But Queen G2, no. Oh.
I mean, 2 minutes on the clock, though. That is right now Vichy's saving grace. It's 2 minutes on the clock here for Garry. So while advantage to Garry, we're dipping below that 2-minute mark once again, and he's going to have to actually capitalize on it.
Unbelievable. And we see that there are very few trades. We're only on, what was this, move 13?
Move 13.
And this kind of clock management, this kind of time management is simply unacceptable. For the two of them. They know it. You won't have to tell them, as Garry's time is now just ticking down inexorably. What is he doing? Is he aware? Is it the same as with Vichy? Is he aware? He's not seeming agitated enough for someone. I say you should keep your cool, but excuse me.
Right?
It's about to be panic time.
Yeah.
Play. I think that Garry is still rightfully concerned about these sacrifices, but I liked what you did a moment ago. Somehow you got your king to a7, knight e7. Isn't this the moment that Vichy strikes with a queen trade?
Yeah,
takes, queen g3. So at least I can recapture and pressure the pawn.
It's a questionable move, at least from the engine's perspective. First move to get a miss entirely.
Engine did not like knight e7, James?
At all.
No? Okay. So maybe time trouble is rearing its ugly head. And Maurice, you said it so well. I mean, it makes fools of everybody.
And by the way,
time trouble.
There's so many ideas, actually, if we just go back
to the current
game position. Because
yep.
The take on f5, the take on e4, the sack on e4.
Right.
Vichy has to decide on the one he wants to do. If he's going to play conservatively and go to the end game, he needs to do that quickly. Sooner is better. But taking on e4 is also quite a saucy move.
The difference is, remember those positions where you were playing bishop takes g3 a moment ago and not capturing the bishop on e4? Let's say I go takes, and you didn't want to capture the bishop on e4 because knight takes e4, right? And knight takes
now it comes with check.
Bingo. Now it comes with check.
And he's taking on e4, takes.
Okay. Check.
Are we going to see a sacrifice on e4? And it's there.
Bam.
Bishop takes e4 by Vichy. And Garry double exclaimed by the engine. Garry said, I can't touch that. And now Garry's played knight b6 quickly. That was his plan, as he couldn't take the pawn, but he is now hitting a pawn himself. This board is on fire.
Yeah, but with no time on the clock. You wanted the battle to erupt. You got it. But you want the battle to erupt when you have a lot of time on your clock to think about your key moves. Knight b6.
It's the same as the last game, remember?
Open,
yes.
1 minute to 6. We're Vichy with the edge.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Right.
It's a kick in the step for both players, though, here, and you have to hope that Vichy will have taken the learning from the last game and not let that time advantage slip so much. And you can see he's moving a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm. Bishop c2, bringing the bishop out of the bishop is no longer in capture. But isn't that a pesky? Isn't it time to recapture? Munch? Okay.
Right.
Attacking the rook.
Only minus to this.
Yes, please.
That I can see is your king doesn't get to a7
as before,
as safely as before.
Right.
In fact, in this position now, I could play rook a3.
He did capture, but I think he captured with the bishop on e8.
And not a happy move, according to the engine. And I gotta say, at the moment, white is castled. That rook on d1. He doesn't have to castle kingside. He's castled, and he could castle later if he wants to. But he's actually castled. Somehow that rook on h1 in a regular setup has teleported to the c3 square. All of white's pieces look pretty decent. Okay, the knights are not in great places, but they look pretty decent. And black is currently sort of down a little bit of a tempo, and the king would have to go to a7. So in this position, does it behoove white to maybe blast open the position with e4?
Yes. Taking advantage, however temporary it may be, that the king is currently misplaced. E4 was that whole idea of winning the e4 square for the knight, so we could play knight takes e4 and fork the queen as well as the bishop.
I think that move would rock Garry if it lands on the board.
E4 is definitely a move where... Ooh,
E4.
Gary actually knew it was good. Yeah. Yeah.
So
and by the way, we were
surprise.
talking about responding instantly to your opponent's move. Gary knew that E4 was a really, really strong move, and now he's played Queen E6 and again returned the ball. By the way, only a minute on his clock.
Exactly.
One bad piece in White's position. James, what do you do here? I've told you one bad piece in White's position.
Yeah, my knight on F1.
Knight on F1.
Yeah, get it in the game.
Knight E3.
Bam.
Plays itself. Bring the knight into play.
But if it plays itself, then I'm wondering why we're still seeing that clock on the white side of the board ticking away. Right?
No.
I'm starting to wonder, because from a 5-minute advantage down to a 4-minute advantage, we are very much going the way we went.
We got another move.
One, it isn't going to be the knight improving himself.
Hold on. We're just talking about improving the pieces. The rook on D1 wants to attack the queen, and Vishy is thinking, captures, and on a good day I can play rook takes E7 thanks to the fact that the bishop is pinned. So he played rook E1, instantly came bishop takes C2. Vishy is recaptured with the rook, by the way, stepping out of any potential tempo. And Gary, look
that
at
move, rook E1.
Cool as a cucumber.
Yes.
King A7.
That move, rook E1, did not really
resonate, no?
Yeah, put the finger on the position.
I agree.
It's amazing in chess. You make one slight misstep, and then you look back at the other person's position and you go, wait a minute, how come their position is organized now? All of Black's pieces look perfectly fine. Everybody looks good. The king is no longer in danger. The rook is now out of prison, about to go to C8, and now Vishy plays the move knight to E3, maybe one move too late, and
the rook on D1. By the way, now we're looking at takes and takes on G3, and maybe that rook on D8 is the one that's working instead of the rook on E1.
You might have to play E5 if you're white, just to make sure this position doesn't open up in a bad way. And Gary, feeling the harmony of his pieces, plays rook A to C8, bishop 106 B4, left on his clock.
Bishop B4. I don't like the move rook E1. I think that Vishy is actually mishandled his business these last 2-3 moves. Don't like what he's done. And the crazy part is he had the 5 minutes. Gary wasn't the one with the time.
5 minutes has become 4:20, and the time hasn't changed on Gary's clock. He's been essentially playing with his 10-second increment, keeping himself just above that 1 minute mark so far. Looking at rooks staring at each other, of course, here on the C file. As always, the question is, do I trade on your terms, or do I wait for you to take?
I'm getting a little bit worried that this bishop on G3 is biting on empty air, and I'm getting worried that the move bishop b4 is going to leave me high and dry, meaning that I've got no attack, and this bishop is going to pin.
Yeah, I'm glad you're worried about that, yes.
Yeah?
I'm glad. You know what I'm worried about?
What?
Vishy's not moving. No. That's what I'm worried about. It's 3:41. We saw the same thing. He had a 5-minute edge on the clock. It's the exact same replay from last game. He's just sitting there once again, clock unaware. That's not the body language of a man who realizes that he might lose on time again.
Whoa.
He has taken
moves.
on D5.
And he captured, by the way, a very, very quick response capture on C2 by Gary, and knight takes C2, attacking the queen once again. So this is what Vishy anticipated, was that he would be able to utilize the E file. And after queen takes D5, unfortunately, the queen is hanging. We don't get it in, if we trade.
You're going to have to trade off?
Either knight captures is just fine. I don't see why Gary would be upset about this position. In fact, I think it's in his favor. Queen takes D5. Queen takes D5. Either knight capturing. I like knight on E7, by the way, best. But either knight capturing is fine. And
both are good options. So go for the one on the E file, though, as you prefer.
And after all that tension,
a lot of major pieces are off the board.
After all that tension, we have an ending. But I will say, there is an isolated pawn in the middle of the board, but it also happens to be a passed pawn.
Isolated passed.
Okay, rook is going to come slide down to the 6th rank here.
You say tomato?
Exactly. You know, you got to be optimistic.
Right.
Bishops leave the battlefield. We do have doubled pawns now here for Vishy with the white pieces.
Exactly. Potential passer on the so I've got this blockade, but I'm not really happy. I see this rook as being a good rook, so I'm thinking I got to make my rook good.
You got to do it quickly. 35 seconds on the clock here for Garry. So as much as we talk about the time trouble for Vishy and the fact that he just lost the game on time, Garry still has to be well aware of the time that he has left to work with. Up to 40 now with that 10 seconds. As he
and now Vishy said, I'm not going to lose again on time. For those of joining us late, we had a stunner of a game today. Vishy had a much, much better position, and he lost on time with a minute on his clock to just make any number of very, very good moves.
Well, now the rooks go.
And now knight g5. This is an unlosable position for white. Like, there's no way you should lose. Unlosable. Unlosable. I'm going to say. I don't know if that's a word, but this is. I'm going to say there's no way you lose this one.
You have not studied my games, clearly.
You say unlosable for, but is it losable for black? Is there...
And I don't think black's losing this one either. This one is looking very drawn as pieces are being chopped off the board over time. And
that was good by Vishy to prevent the move knight f5 from coming, because knight f5 was going to fork the pawns. And remember when I said, you know, I've got black has the potential for a passer on the queen side? Garry said, don't forget about my potential.
Yeah.
All right, time to bring the king up.
Also a good time for us to remind viewers at home that there are no draw offers before the completion of black's 60th move.
Right.
And so while we are working with very little material still left on the board, 3 pawns apiece, 1 knight apiece, and the king, of course.
Sorry, I'm seeing a draw as an inevitability here. I'm expecting that 1 pawn is going to be traded on the queen side, and there's going to be a trade coming over on the king side as well. King c2. Okay, well, wait a minute. Garry's the one with the outside passer. He can use that as a decoy as he goes after the d4 pawn.
Body language says draw. You can see them both confident that this is going to lead nowhere. And so
that g6 knight is very strong. Defending his own pawn and the d5 square as well.
Yes, that's right. King d5, knight f5, instantly by Vishy. King e6.
Back to e6.
I think this is a silent draw offer. Would you like to play knight g7 check, please?
Why not? Here we go.
King to d5.
You go back to d5, and they'll repeat and head off to the blitz game.
Okay.
Games.
I feel in some ways it was a very well-played game, but also missed opportunities for both players. Like, both players are going to be a little salty after this one.
And here we go as we see a repetition taking place.
Yep.
Up to Garry now.
Got to put the finishing touches on it for the draw.
Minute 20 seconds for Garry.
I mean, there is no way you... Oh, well, Gary's aware of the fact that he has an outside pass pawn.
Right.
Potential. So he could play a4. But he's decided no reason to, again, press my luck. And they've repeated, and the game has ended in a draw.
From an unlosable position.
Losable.
And it was not lost. There it is, a draw to conclude our rapid portion of the day. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, this is such an interesting case.
No, you have too much space after d5, e4.
Yeah, no, g4.
Maybe a4 was not necessary.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
a4 is not necessary, said
e5, I think, only move. But I think at one point I was probably I could take on g4, but I just...
e5
We didn't mind it, but we were wondering if it just was too slow or if it...
But I was already...
Garry says when he saw the move g4, I was already feeling depressed that he'd lost the initiative. Maurice, jump in on that key moment when we saw the move queen g2 and we recoiled. We did not like
this moment right here, queen g2, slow, not quite as incisive as capturing on e4. And in this moment, Garry was the one who actually played less incisive chess. He played knight to e7, figuring he needed to develop this piece. But right here, right now, he had the opportunity to play the move king to a7, bring the final piece into the game, the rook that is into the game, and harmonize everything. Also getting out from under this pin in the position as well. This would have been a really nice way for him to play. Any trades, you can just capture back. You can develop if you want to. And in a position like this, we just bring our rook over. And you got to enjoy this if you are black. The great opportunity for Garry. He didn't find this way to play, and it turned out he ended up not quite getting enough, not winning the game. But I think he's satisfied. He's got a draw with the black pieces. He's got a 3-point lead in the match. What's not to like?
Yeah, no, he's sitting pretty.
Sitting pretty by all accounts, and I think, we'll maybe call into question for Vishy. Plans laid, but maybe not followed through at times, right?
With
We're talking
A4.
about, okay, you've got this long think from Garry. During that time, you should have your response ready. And we're still just waiting for that next gear to be found for Vishy in this one. But the good news is this is only the halfway point of our 3-day event. But we can take a look at the score lines to update you at home for how things stand. As Maurice had mentioned, it is a 3-point lead so far here for Garry Kasparov over Viswanathan Anand through 6 games. We'll turn our attention now to the blitz games, though, to see if Vishy can start to grab back some of that space. You see there a 2 in that first column there on the left-hand side, and that's because on day 2, wins are worth 2 points, draws are worth 1 point, and of course losses are worth 0. That will be upped in the ante once again tomorrow with 3 points apiece per win and 1.5 for a draw. We're going to take a quick break, and as we go, we are lucky enough to be able to share